let's talk Jim Harbaugh before we got out of here. Jim Harbaugh to the Chargers. Now, I made a clip vouching for Jim Harbaugh to go to the Falcons. I thought that'd be a great fit. I thought that would give the Falcons a great chance to be competitive in a really weak NFC South. But I like this move as well. Jim Harbaugh to the Chargers. I think automatically before a football is snapped, it makes Jim Harbaugh and Justin Herbert undeniably one of the 5 best head coach quarterback duos in the NFL. But long term, when you think about this for the Chargers, what are we expecting from the Chargers moving forward now that they have Jim Harbaugh as head coach?
I mean, no more excuses, right? And for Jim Harbaugh, this is a win-win because no matter what happens, he can't lose, right? It can't be. This is more about Justin Herbert to me than Jim Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh has nothing to prove here. Jim Harbaugh was already a winner in the NFL. He was, and obviously a winner in college. Everything is on the Chargers. Everything is on the front office. Everything is on Justin Herbert because think about who we're talking about here. Jim Harbaugh, proven winner, comes to save the Chargers. Not Jim Harbaugh drafts Justin Herbert to help save his job. You need me. Mm-hmm. So even if it doesn't go well this season, you know what that'll tell me? That tells me Justin Herbert ain't the guy. That tells me that maybe the Chargers need to move on from Justin Herbert. Maybe we've kind of put the crown on the kid too early, and he was just flash in the pan, and we were just attracted to the nice hair and whatever. And so he has the weapons, he has everything he needs. Jim can take his time, and he's the quarterback whisperer. He's won a lot of games with Colin Kaepernick, who, no matter how much I love him, wasn't that great of a quarterback. And in Alex Smith, who is a really good quarterback, but I don't think he is the talent that that Justin Herbert seemingly has, right? Like it's so, and Jim's won a lot of games with them, been to a Super Bowl. So I don't think anybody's going to sit there and argue that Justin Herbert is any worse than Colin Kaepernick or Alex Smith. And, you know, so everything is on Justin Herbert right now. You have Jim Harbaugh, you have great weapons. You still have a top end wide receiver when he's right in Keenan Allen. Mike Williams, when he's healthy, is right. And obviously you have one of the better running backs in the league in Austin Eckler. And you have a really good defense. There is no excuse now. There is no excuse. You have to let Jim Harbaugh, the onus is on the Chargers to let Jim Harbaugh come in and do what he needs to do. And this always felt like a one-team race, right? Like, I don't think any of the Jim to the Falcons, even my pipe dream of the Bills firing Sean McDermott and hiring Jim Harbaugh, I don't think any of that was ever real. I think it was either the Chargers or it was Michigan. And I think Jim, maybe if the NCAA thing wasn't breathing down his neck, we'd probably still be in Michigan. But, you know, Jim seems like the guy that wants to take the challenge. Like he, you know, Andy Reid's in the division. Oh, Antonio Pierce, then the Raiders everybody's in love with. No, I'm gonna fix Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert's been underachieving. The Chargers have been underachieving. I'm the guy. I'm the guy to take this thing to the next level. So I'm really excited. I'm really excited to see what Jim does. I'm a big fan of his. I like his style. I like the way, I know a lot of people don't like the way he kind of comes off. I love it, man. He's doing it his way and he's successful. You can't hate on that. So it'll be exciting, but the ball is definitely, to me, there's no pressure on Jim Harbaugh. None. I know people will say that there is. I think they're wrong. I think the pressure is actually on the Chargers front office, and the pressure is more on Justin Herbert because Jim Harbaugh has already proven that he can win.
This is a match made in heaven. The problem is that the Chargers have negative $44 million in cap space. Yeah, that's the problem. Which means that the only way to improve this team is the thing you love the most, addition by subtraction. If there's any improvements that this team is going to make, it's going to have to be by making trades. And a lot of these players are making too much money in 2024 and 2025 for people to want to trade for them. So the Chargers have to do something that they haven't been able to do in a very long time. And that's nail the NFL draft with the picks that they have. Because on paper, this team is talented. The problem is you have guys around a very young quarterback who are injury prone. Mike Williams has yet to play, and I love Mike Williams, by the way. Mike Williams has yet to play a full NFL season in his career. He's yet to play a full NFL season in his career. Khalil Mack, injury prone. Joey Bosa, injury prone. Derwin James misses at least 3 or 4 games every single year. Asante Samuel Jr. shows a lot of promise defensively, but he's also had some issues with the injury bug. The offensive line has injury issues. The defensive line, like up and down this roster, there's so many injury issues. And so, unfortunately, until you can get out of this cap nightmare where you are $44 million in the hole, this team has to perform as is. I think that's the one downside to this. I love Jim Harbaugh for Justin Herbert. I love Justin Herbert for Jim Harbaugh. I love the fact that the Chargers are trying to strike while the iron is hot, taking advantage of the fact that the AFC West 2 years ago was supposed to be the best division in the league, right? You had Russell Wilson coming in. You still had Derek Carr in Vegas. Obviously, you have Justin Herbert in LA. Pat Mahomes is still in Kansas City. But now Russell Wilson's gone. Now the Raiders have Aiden O'Connell as quarterback right now. And Pat Mahomes is still Pat Mahomes. But the Chiefs, as we've been saying, will they get, how much better will they get next year? Will they continue to take step back? Is Travis Kelce going to be there next year? All of these things is Chris Jones going to be there next year? All of these things are things worth asking. And so the Chargers are trying to take advantage while they can. This is no different from the San Francisco 49ers when they brought in Jim Harbaugh. The Seahawks, kind of iffy. The Rams, kind of iffy. The Cardinals, not that good at all. Here comes Jim Harbaugh in San Francisco. Wow, we're winning divisions. We're going to conference championship games. We're making it to a Super Bowl, and Beyonce shut the lights out. That's what this can look like. We talked about how earlier you mentioned we have so many instances where coaches are setting cultures, getting fired. Next guy comes in, Super Bowl. Unfortunately for Brandon Staley, he didn't really set much of a culture because the culture he set was a losing culture. So it's going to take Jim Harbaugh maybe a year or 2, maybe 3 to set his culture. But Jim Harbaugh's a winner, and he's changed every program he's ever touched. He went to Stanford. Look at what Stanford was before Jim Harbaugh. Look at what Stanford was under Jim Harbaugh. Look at San Francisco. What were they before Jim Harbaugh? What were they under Jim Harbaugh? Look at Michigan. Michigan was mediocre, underwhelming, underachieving year in and year out. Jim Harbaugh gets there. They beat Ohio State 3 years in a row. They win 3 straight Big Ten championships. They have a perfect season, win a national championship. Jim Harbaugh rides into the sunset. Oh, and by the way, everyone steals signs in college. Shut up about it and move on. So look at what the Chargers were before Jim Harbaugh. They have the chance to be the next success story. They have the chance to be the next program that gets changed. I think Jim Harbaugh is going to do it. I know he can do it. It's just a matter of, can the Chargers get out of this cap nightmare that they have? That's going to be the big thing. $44 million. I know we talk all the time about how the salary cap only exists to the teams that make it exist. When you owe the league $44 million, you can't run away from that. So the Chargers are behind the 8 ball a bit because they don't have any way to improve this offense or improve this team overall unless they start trading players. There's players they can trade. The question is, most of these players are old. So how much value are you going to get back for those players?
I mean, again, we've seen the salary cap gymnastics. We've seen, Russell Westbrook has had 3 untradeable contracts in his career, and he's been traded each time. It's just like, I get what people are saying. The Bills are kind of in that situation, but come on now. It always, will it get done? Like, how can they get it done? It always gets done. So the Chargers, maybe not this year. Maybe they'll start taking the steps. But the most important thing is what you said earlier, what you alluded to earlier. All those things that Jim Harbaugh does, what does he teach? What does he preach? Grit and culture. What are the things, and toughness? So grit, culture, and toughness. What are the 3 things that the Chargers have been mainly missing? That's grit, culture, and toughness. Jim Harbaugh brings those things. He did it in Michigan. Michigan, damn near the toughest team in college football. Period. Absolutely. Stanford, the Niners. What are we talking about here? So, and more importantly for the Chargers, if you believe in the talent of Justin Herbert, you have that and you have the head coach, which are the 2 most important things. So yes, may not look great next year in terms of trying to figure out what's what, that's going to be Jim's job, but he manages the team well. He creates a great culture. He will make them believe. And if you do think the roster as constructed is overrated and they may not be able to do anything with it next year, who else better to get the most out of them than Jim Harbaugh, right? Yeah. Hey, we only probably going to have y'all for this year because, quite frankly, we can't do anything else. We're probably going to have to cut some of you, probably have to trade some of you, but by and large, most of you are probably still going to be here, and we're going to have to overpay a lot of you. But who better than Jim Harbaugh to get the best out of Mike Williams, to get the best out of Austin Eckler, to get the best out of Justin Herbert and some of these defensive players. So again, Jim gets the benefit of the doubt. To me, he has zero pressure on him. The pressure is on the team.
Yeah.
Jim, we already know what Jim can do. It's you guys. You guys have to impress me. You guys have to let me know if you belong here. I already know I belong here because I've proven it already in San Francisco, and I've proven it in college. I can do it anywhere. I can do it here if you let me. So it's on Justin Herbert to show that he's the franchise quarterback. And it's on those players to show that they earn those contracts. And most of them will get shipped out. And I expect some of them to get traded. And I expect some of them to get cut. But, to me, match made in heaven for sure. I think the Chargers, and I do like the Falcons overall, but the problem with the Falcons are the same reason why they didn't hire Bill Belichick. Arthur Blank won't let his GM get overrun, right? When you hire a guy like Jim Harbaugh, when you hire a guy like Bill Belichick, they are the biggest you know what in the room, and they have to be. That's the way they run it. Jim Harbaugh, to me, his challenge from going from college to the NFL is realizing he may not be able to control everything. But I think the Chargers.
I think that's why the Chargers hired him first. And I'm saying the Chargers haven't hired Tom Pelesco or whatever his name is. They haven't hired his replacement yet at GM. I think that's why they did that. They wanted to get Jim in. Jim's going to decide the GM that he trusts. And that is, again, what's going to make this a match made in heaven, because you're not going to have that power struggle that we tend to see when we have head coaches and GMs fight at the same time. Is because a lot of times you see GMs say, well, I drafted these players and you're not making it work. Or coaches will say, I'm coaching these players, give me better players. Jim Harbaugh was hired first, so he can pick a GM that he trusts. He's probably going to bring in a GM he's worked with before, or a GM that he knows real well. Heck, he might bring someone from Michigan, I don't know, a scout or something to be the GM. I don't know what he's going to do, but Jim Harbaugh is going to have a big say in who the new GM in LA is going to be. And I thought I thought that if there was anywhere, whoever was going to hire Jim Harbaugh, they were not going to have a GM opening. And so it also, or they were going to have a GM opening. So it also just made sense. It was going to be two places, that because there were only two places that had, if I'm not mistaken, only two teams had both a GM opening and a head coach opening. The Raiders don't count because the Raiders were always going to hire Antonio Pierce. They just had a GM opening. It was either going to be the Chargers or it was going to be Washington. And by God, Jim Harbaugh was not going to saddle himself with the stench that is the Washington Commanders. So good for Jim Harbaugh for going to the
Patriots too, technically, right? Because Bill Belichick was also
that's a good point. Yeah, but Jim would have stressed himself out trying to the Patriots.
You don't want to replace Bill Belichick.
They're all the way in the mud. Right. You gotta undo what Bill. Yeah, that's a lot. And you also don't.
And they had Gerard Mayo supposedly had like some succession plan, so he was always going to be the coach, and no matter if Bill Belichick was doing well or not. So yeah, I think the Chargers makes a lot of sense.
It was about that, because I really think Josh McDaniels thought he was going to be the new head coach of the Patriots once Bill got it.
So supposedly this happened like 2 years ago. So that was when Josh McDaniels went to the Raiders. So I would imagine Josh McDaniels knew about it. And that's why he went to the Raiders, because he was like, well, screw that, and because that was at the time, that was a head scratcher. I was like, why would you leave New England? You were going to be the guy. Well, apparently you weren't. So,
the black man.
Now that makes sense. Yeah.